Welcome to IELTS Symphony. Today, we'll tackle one of the most confusing reading question types: true, false, not given. For this lesson, we'll use a passage from Cambridge IELTS 19. It's a long passage, and we have two different question types, but we'll focus on true, false, not given 1. I always start by reading the question first. Let's look at the first one. 40 years ago, there were fewer butterflies in Britain than at present. To answer this type of question correctly, you need to fully understand the sentence, or at least get a close understanding of its meaning. This question is quite simple and easy to retain. We can focus on keywords like butterflies and Britain to help us find the right information in the passage. Now, let's start at the beginning of the passage and scan for these keywords to locate the answer quickly. We have found both keywords in the first line of the passage, so it seems like an easy find. Now we will read the sentence carefully and compare the information with our question. The passage states, according to conservationists, populations of around 2/3 of butterfly species have declined in Britain over the past 40 years. Now, let's analyze this statement against our question. 40 years ago, there were fewer butterflies in Britain than at present. Does the passage confirm this? No. In fact, it states that butterfly populations have declined over the past 40 years, meaning there were actually more butterflies 40 years ago, not fewer. Therefore, the correct answer is false. Let's move to the next question. I have picked caterpillars and predators as the keywords to locate the relevant information. After finding these keywords in the passage, let's carefully read that section and compare it to the question. The passage states, butterfly eggs develop into caterpillars, and these insects, which are the second stage in a new butterfly's life cycle, consume vast quantities of plant material and, in turn, act as prey for birds, as well as bats and other small mammals. Now, let's analyze the question. Caterpillars are eaten by a number of different predators. From the passage, we understand that caterpillars are the early stage of butterflies and depend on plants for food. This also makes them vulnerable to dangers. They serve as prey for birds, bats, and other small mammals. Although the question does not use the word predators, it lists specific species instead. However, we have confirmed that caterpillars are prey and are eaten by multiple species. Since the passage supports the statement, the correct answer is true. Let's move to the next one. We will apply the same strategies to draw our answer. Phenology, location, and life cycle event are my keywords, and now we will look for these words in the passage. Scientists refer to the timing of such life cycle events as phenology. So when an animal or plant starts to do something earlier in the year than it usually does, it is said to be advancing its phenology. After reading it, we find that yes, animals use its abilities to do something earlier than the usual time, which named as phenology. Yet we need to make sure, is it location related or not? Now, to ensure accuracy, we may look at the surrounding context. Let's read the prior sentences to get more related details. It says, butterflies typically doesn't favor the summertime for their reproduction. Therefore, they push themselves to develop a reproductive technique to before the summer starts. This is a biological process, and it is called the phenology. However, it does not alter or change any physical location. Since the question implies that phenology is about altering physical location, but the passage defines it as altering biological process, thereby the information does not match. So the correct answer is false. Now, let's move on to the next question. The statement says, some species of butterfly have a reduced lifespan due to spring temperature increases. To locate the relevant information, I've selected lifespan, spring, and temperature as key terms. The passage confirms that spring temperatures have increased and mentions that species have adjusted their timing in response. However, it only discusses their adaptability to temperature fluctuations, not lifespan. Well, I believe we need to read further to check for any relevant information. As we continue reading, we see that the passage explores butterflies' adaptability by comparing various factors, but it does not mention lifespan reduction. Since no clear indication is given, the correct response is not given. Now, let's move on to the next question. The statement says, there is a clear reason for the adaptations that butterflies are making to climate change. We can apply our contextual understanding from the previous response. The passage questions whether butterflies are adapting well or struggling due to climate change, stating that the answer is still unknown. This means there is no confirmed clear reason for their adaptations. Since the information contradicts the statement, the correct answer is false. Now it's your turn. Solve question 6 and drop your answer in the comments. To explore more strategies for different IELTS reading question types, stay tuned with IELTS Symphony.